Hi guys, this is Ajulang here. Welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, you're welcome. Consider subscribing and don't forget to turn on the bell icon so that I get to know anytime I post new videos. So today I'll be sharing with us another clever and profitable sewing project which you can make and sell for maximum profit, and I'll be using the structured knots method for today's tutorial. So if you're interested, let's get started. So I'll be using this fabric here to make these structured knots. Here I have my satin and I have my gum stay. If you want, you can also use the stronger one, because this we're going to use this fabric now to create a kind of knot. So you need something to hold the fabric so that it will stand by the time we finish the knot. Okay, so you can also use any other fabric that is very strong, so that by the time you finish it will just stand on its own. So I'm going to keep this aside so we can work on the bodice part. I'll be making this on the bodice part. If you want, you can create this look on the sleeve or at the hem of your dress. That's the skirt part. You can create this look on it. So for me, I'll be creating this on the bodice part, and as you can see, I have my bodice pattern here. This is the front side. The back is going to be plain. All right, so I have my bodice pattern here, and if you don't know how to draft a basic bodice pattern, I'm going to drop the link in the description box so you can check that out for you to know how to go about drafting a basic bodice. Now here is my pattern. The first thing I'm going to do is to mark out the ½ inch for the waist sewing allowance. I'm going to mark that out and connect it straight. This is going to give me a guide where the knot will stand or end. Okay, so I'll just connect this to a straight line. This is my sewing allowance. Then I'll move over to the neck area. Okay, so to the neck area now, you decide where you want the knot to start. Okay, so all I'm going to do now is to mark 1 inch from this neck depth. I'll just mark 1 inch down. Okay, so for this neck depth I used 2 inches plus 1 inch, that is 3. So I'll just connect this point to a straight line. This is where my knot will either start or end. So I'll just connect this straight. Okay, so after connecting on this armhole, I'll also remove the inch that I left for the side for the armhole allowance. All this is very important so that you know where to attach the knot, so that it will not have any issue when you get to the armhole or the side or the waist area. Okay, so this is very important. So I'll just connect this and repeat the same on the other side of the armhole. So this is the side. I am using ½ inch for the side sewing allowance. As you can see, I am marking it out as well. So whatever I have left is what I'll be using to create this look. All right, so let me just quickly connect all these points. So here I have the side, the armhole connected. So all my working is going to be in this space that I have here. You can see that I didn't bother marking out the neck sewing allowance or the shoulder sewing allowance, because the knot will not go up to this part. So I will just maintain what I have here. So now I am going to mark ½ inch. Okay, the distance from what I'll be doing here, I will make it, okay, let me say I'll make it 0.75 because I don't want it to be too close. So this is 0.75. I am going to mark that all the way down to the other end. All right, like I was saying, I'll go ahead and mark the 0.75 following this first line here. Okay, down to this point. Now you might be wondering why I am using 0.75. So for you to know what to do, just measure what you have now. After connecting all these points, measure what you have from where you want the knot to start and end. So for me it is 5 1/4, and for me to have a matching number here, it is 0.75 that I'm going to use, so that everything will tally up nicely. So you need to do that calculation before choosing the inch to use. That is the distance of each of your knots. So make sure you calculate that to know the inch to use for that. So I'm going to connect and continue on this next line and mark 0.75 until I exhaust all that I have here. All right, so this is very easy. So I'll just mark again, just continue this way like that and connect all. Okay, so after the markings, this is what I have. I am going to slash this open following each of these lines, and when you want to cut on your fabric, make sure to add your sewing allowance. Okay, so just cut this out. I want to take this one after the other so that you understand exactly what I am trying to create. So let me just quickly cut this out and cut it on my fabric, and then I'm going to show you how to cut out your strap, how to fold your strap, and how to join it on the fabric. All right, so let me just quickly finish up with this one. All right, here you can see that I just finished slashing them open, and I've added my 1/4 inch sewing allowance on both sides, aside from this first one, which is the neckline, and this last one, which is the waist line. Okay, so this is what I have. The next thing to do now is to check or note how many inch you want to use for each of your knots. All right, so for me, I am going to maintain what I am using. Remember that the distance that I marked here on my paper, it was 0.75, so I'm going to maintain that for the width of the knot. Now if it is 0.75, I will not be cutting out exactly 0.75 because I'll be turning this inside out after cutting it out. So what I'm going to do is to multiply that by 2 and then add my sewing allowance. So 0.75 by 2 will give me 1.5, then plus ½ inch for the joining or sewing allowance, I'll have 2 inches. So the width of the strap, or rather the knots that I'm going to make now, is going to be 2 inches. For the height, you can make it as long as you want, because at the end of the day, we're going to be cutting it a little, we're going to cutting it bit by bit to create the knot. So here I have the 2 inches already cut out. Here you see I have 2 inches. Like I said, the height can be as long as you want, because at the end of the day, I'll be cutting it out bit by bit. So after doing this part now, you're going to decide how small or bold you want the knot to be. So for me, I don't want it to be that big. I just want it I just want it very moderate. So all I'm going to do, like I said earlier, I'll also maintain the 0.75. all right, then for the knot, remember I said we're going to sew this first and then turn it inside out, then we'll cut it bit by bit. I am trying to explain the part that we are going to cut bit by bit now, how many inches or inch I'll be using for that part. So all I'm going to do, for me to know the inch that I'll be using for this part that I'll be cutting out bit by bit, I'll use the same okay, for this part I'll just make it 1.25, because like I said earlier, I don't want it that much. If you use the same 0.75, you know it's going to lay flat. By the time you start joining them one after the other, it will lay flat, and I don't want it to lay flat. So for this reason, I'll add a little inch to that, so that by the time we join it on both ends, it will come up a bit exactly the way I want it to be. So that's why I'm using 1.25. So after knowing that, remember to add this sewing allowance that you have here, because you also need it so that you have it exactly the inch that you want it to be. So for this part, I use 1/4 inch on both sides. So if you join that two, it's going to give me 0.5, which is half. So if you add 1.25, which is exactly what I want to use to create the knots, plus 0.5 for this allowance here, I'll have 1.75. So after sewing this and then turning it inside out, I'm going to be cutting out 1.75, as many as I can, as many that will cover up all that I have here. All right, so we're going to take it one after the other. I'm going to keep all this aside. Then for this, I will use my gum stain now and press it on this. After doing that, I will now sew it same way you sew a belt. Then after sewing it, just fold into two like this after putting the gum stain, and then you use that inch that I said earlier for the sewing allowance and run it all the way down, after which I will turn it inside out and give it a good press. Then I will come back so that I will show you how to cut it bit by bit and how to fix it on the dress to give it the nice look. So let me just quickly finish up this part and then we continue. All right, here you can see I just finished sewing and cutting them all out in bits, and here I used whatever I used here, that is the distance from each of the lines. Remember, when I was drafting this, I used 0.75, which is what is here. So that is what I used here. I used 0.75, then I added ½ inch to create the ease, making it 1.25, and then you also need to add the sewing allowance. You know, we're going to be joining this. Here you can see I have my sewing allowance on each of these, so you need to add the sewing allowance on each of these as well. So that is what I have here, and everything I have 1.75, 0.75 plus ½ inch for ease, and then another ½ inch for the sewing allowance. So I have 1.75 here. So all this here, it is 1.75. So I'm going to start by joining it now on this first one here. Okay, so I'm going to join it, and before I do that, here is the what I'll be using to create the knot, and you can see that I iron the part, the seam allowance, I iron that this way so that it will be hidden by the time you sew that in. Okay, you're not supposed to iron it on the side, just make sure that it's on the center. So I'm going to place it now. You can see I am starting off with this first one, and then I am leaving 0.75 space as well from this armhole line. So I'm going to place it that way and stitch it on this part, after which I'm going to take this now and place on it, okay, and then secure it very well. So I'm going to take this to my sewing machine so that you can understand better what I am trying to explain.
All right, this is where we are so far. As you can see, this is what I have. So after sewing, I'll just use my hand and adjust it one after the other the way I want it to be. And you can see that it's taking a shape of a mat. Okay, so this is what I want to achieve. So now I am going to join the lining. It's very easy. So I'll just place sew the shoulder and then place it over this one, making sure that the front is facing each other, and then I'll sew the neckline, the armhole, and then turn it inside out and give it a very good press. So here you can play with it. Just create something you want, you know, something beautiful. You can just adjust it to make it nice. Then I'm going to join this skirt part here. I have a 3-layer skirt here. I'm going to join it. If you want to know how to make this beautiful 3-layer skirt, you can join our intermediate class where you will learn how to make this beautiful skirt. So I'll quickly do all this now and then join the skirt part and show you the final look of the dress. So this is the final look of this dress, and you can see that it's already looking so beautiful. So you can just try this out and you will see that there's nothing much to this. So that is it for today. Please subscribe if you have not, and I will see you all in my next video.